to that, and it's real. That's a real thing. And so a lot of times they can't control the response. So when you say something to them, one of two things happens. Either they ignore you and keep doing it, or they get angry because you called them out. That's really the two responses you'll get from those kids. And what I want to say about that is the calmer you are in your response, the more positive you are in your response, no matter what they have said or done, the more quickly you're going to de-escalate that situation, okay? So I said this the other day in my training with the teachers, but fuck you is not about you. It's not about you, even if they say it right in your face. That is not about you. That's about them. And that's about something going on in their head that makes them so frustrated, they don't know what else to say and do. They're just frustrated. Okay? And I'm not saying it's okay for them to say that to you or anything like that. What I'm saying is, it's not about you. They're not attacking you. It feels that way, but it's not. It's their conflict inside that makes them do things like that. It's their conflict. 2/3 of our kids experience trauma in some form or another, which screws with our brain, okay? Trauma messes up our brain function. I mean, we can talk about our lives. A lot of us have experienced trauma in our lives. It messes with your brain. It messes with kids' brain development. So it messes with their ability to respond correctly. Okay? So when they respond like a jerk, try to take it in stride. Try, and I know it's hard. And I don't expect you to be abused by anybody and just take it, okay? But try not to react to that, okay? And when you don't react, it doesn't tell the other kids that that's okay with you. That's not what it says, because the other kids know it's wrong. They all know it's wrong, okay? But what happens is if you're in control of your response, first thing you're doing is modeling for that kid how to respond to a difficult situation. Because they just said something to you or did something that is bad, and you're controlling your response to it. Try. It takes practice. It's hard. Our human response is to turn around and say, stop it right now. That's our human response, right? That's what we would have said to our kids if they did that, right? Our own kids. But these kids have a problem in their brain function. Doesn't mean they're not intelligent. It means that their brains don't work the way we think they should. Okay? And that's a disability you can't see, so it's hard to deal with. When a child comes in a wheelchair, we can see that. We know exactly what to do about it. But when a child comes in with a brain dysfunction, you can't see it. All you get to see are the things that come out in terms of words and behaviors, and it's tough. So I understand. I do. I spent 27 years teaching kids like that. I get it, okay? Nobody probably gets it better than I do. But I will say that it's important for you to remember in those moments, think in your mind right now, because it's different for everybody. I want you to think in your mind of the worst thing that could happen on your bus, shy of, somebody killing somebody. Let's not go there, okay? But what's the worst thing? What's the thing that gets under your skin the most about a kid's behavior on the bus? Just think about that one thing that really bugs you, because it could be different for each person. And I want you to think in your mind and practice in your mind how you're going to respond to it. That one thing that really bugs you, how are you going to respond to it so that you're responding in a way that's not reactive, it's proactive? Okay? I'm going to go back to that idea of seating charts. And I can't stress it enough. And I know it may not make sense. It may not make sense. But it's a fact. And evidence in research shows it. That if you establish a seating chart that you stick to, it doesn't mean you're not a nice person or you're not friendly to the kids or whatever, but you're going to stick to that seating chart. This is what we're going to do on my bus or on my van, okay? Because we need to, because it keeps everybody safe. It helps us to manage what's going on. You can say this to the kids. It helps us manage what's going on the bus. So we're going to do that and to say it with a smile. Here's the seating chart. Welcome everybody. You're sitting here. You're sitting here. But again, I'm going to go back to that idea that it establishes your authority. And that's important. You need to be seen as the authority figure, the supervisor of that bus, of those kids. They need to perceive you that way. And they will perceive you that way if you start out the very first minute with a seating chart. You say their name when they get on the bus. Good morning, Johnny. Welcome to the new school year. I'm so happy to see you. You're sitting right here, Johnny. Thank you so much. The other thing I'm going to say is that then you have kids in predictable places for yourself. You know where they are. And when you need to call something out, you can do it without being reactive. But you know what I would ask that you call out? Instead of publicly humiliating kids by, Johnny, I said stop it! Instead of doing that, how about Jimmy? Man, you did an awesome job today staying in your seat. Thank you so much. Sally, you were so positive today. That was really great. Thank you for being nice to people on the bus today. Call out the positives, because you know what happens, and again, evidence, if you all want the research, I got stacks of it, okay? If you call out the positives, the kids who are thinking about negative behaviors want that positive attention to move in that direction. Most of the time, not exclusively 100% of the time, but most of the time, will want to do something so they can be recognized too. Okay, so try to notice, if you already know on your list there's somebody who has difficulty on the bus, choose them first. Okay? Jimmy always has a problem in the afternoon going home. As soon as Jimmy gets on that bus, Jimmy, great to see you. I'm so glad you're on my bus today. Okay? And I know it sounds cheesy, but it isn't to the kids. And that goes right up to the high school kids. You don't have to be cool. Listen, I'm not cool, and they all know it. But it's okay. Because I can say positive things to kids, and it still means something to them. Okay? So those are the kinds of things I would stress. The one thing I'm going to say next is we're going to talk just a minute about confidentiality. Okay? And I know I talk about this, I did last year. About a week ago, I had a meeting with a parent who came in and said, you know, sometime maybe in June, maybe in the summer, I don't know when it was, but sometime the driver came and told me something about somebody on the bus doing something to my son. And I want to know what you're going to do about it. I would ask that you not have conversations with parents about what happens on your van or bus. If the parent says how things go, you say fine. If they want more information, ask them to call the school, because you're going to report problems to the school, not to the parents, please. Here's why. Especially in special education, but not exclusively special education. If you talk to a parent, especially about another child, and there's a lawsuit, which happens a lot in special education, I have to bring you into it. You'll be involved the whole way through. And I don't want you in that position. I don't want you to have that liability. Okay, you're just doing your job. Okay? And I don't want you in that situation where you have to be called in as a witness or as somebody who, you know, was involved in the situation, because it gets ugly. And it gets ugly because that's just the way things are. I mean, you know, people file lawsuits, that's what happens. But I just want you to understand The confidentiality has to do with the law, and particularly in special education. It's actually a written piece of the law, and so they use it. And I would say, and I say the same thing to TSS workers and people who come in the building to help kids. I say the same thing to them. I don't want any of you to be in a position to hold liability over a situation with a child. You're doing your job. If the parent asks you how things are going, you just say they're fine. If you would like more information, call the school. Please refer them to us. Don't have those conversations yourself, because things get misinterpreted. It becomes like, that grapevine game. Did you ever sit in a circle and someone starts the little statement and you whisper it to each other and it goes around, and by the time it gets to the end, it's completely different? That's what happens here. Because everybody whispers to everybody, and it gets back to us eventually. And then it's a problem. Then it's a problem we have to manage. So I don't want you involved in it, okay? It's just safer if you just refer them to us. Because if there's a problem, you're going to report it to us anyway. And then we can communicate it out, okay? And we have ways of communicating it out that follow the law. And we have to do that. So I just ask that if you have a problem with a child, you've got, I think, is it my cell phone number? Okay, my cell phone number. Call me. Call Danette. Call Casey. Okay? Please do that before you talk to a parent about a problem. Please do not communicate problems to parents, even about their own child. Okay? Because you communicating to the parent, then they're going to say, how come you guys don't tell us about these problems that happen? Sometimes we don't know about it because you communicated it directly to the parent. So I just would prefer that we be the ones to do that, and that you be the folks working hard to do your jobs. Listen, I recognize that. But I don't want someday to have to pull you into a situation that's not pleasant for you to have that liability. I just don't want you in that position. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions about that? Concerns? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I care if we care also. Okay. I talk to kids all the time. And I got a lot of pre-K kids that I hope for pre-K on my book. And this parent want to know how these kids are pre-K.
I'm going to tell you the same thing about pre-K. I'm going to say, we did okay. You can just make a general statement. We did fine. If you refer a behavior to us, we will handle that. But and we are happy to tell the parents that. I'm happy to say I have asked you guys not to talk about specifics about problems on the vans and buses. I'm happy to say that. Put the burden on me. Say, Mrs. Parsons told us that we are not going to sit and have a conversation about this. I'm going to tell you that things were okay. Things were okay. They didn't jump out a window. Yay. Okay, if they do, grab their ankle, please. Okay. But you can say, it's okay, if you would like to talk to the school, they'll be able to help you with how the child's day has gone. And that will include bus behavior, because you will have reported anything that was a problem. Right? Okay. I'm just saying, if even with a pre-K student, if there's a problem that it gets serious, we're going to have to bring you into it. And I don't want to have to do that. I just don't want you, with that liability. I know you're trying to help, believe me. I get it. And I know how parents can be. I know some of them step right up on that bus and say, you better tell me right now. And you just will very kindly say, you can call the school. They're not supposed to be on the bus, but I know occasionally they jump on the bus. But the bottom line is, I'm just trying to save you from liability. I just don't want you to have that liability, okay? You have enough of a big job. You don't need to be involved in that nonsense, all right? Let me do that. Let me be involved in that nonsense and handle it. That's my job, okay? When you put kids in your van or on the bus, especially a child who you know has difficulty or has special arrangements or car seat or whatever it is, secure them before you drive. It is not okay not to secure a child. I mean, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, I'm sure of it. But it is not okay not to secure a child according to the law, and drive away. So if you have a concern about how to secure them, or they're not being secured correctly, or whatever, talk to the company you work for. They'll communicate with us. If we need to buy something or figure out something, we'll do it. But it does not eliminate the responsibility you have of securing the child, okay? Also, when you drop kids off, particularly van drivers, I'm speaking to right now, if there's not anyone outside, I would ask, or someone at the door, or you can see that someone's home, please don't leave the child. Please bring them back to us, okay? Parents know that they're supposed to be there, that someone is supposed to be there, okay? And if they haven't made arrangements for someone to be there, or they're not there, or whatever, please don't leave the child, especially the little ones. But when you're in a van, particularly, you're driving kids with I'm sorry, I'm walking back and forth. I'm sorry. I know it's a problem.
That's okay.
If you have a child with a particular challenge, even if they're 12 or 13 years old, they have a challenge. They have a brain that doesn't work correctly. That's why they're on your van most of the time. Please don't leave them unless you see evidence that there is someone there. Okay? Bring them back to us. We'll handle it. Okay? Does anybody have questions about that? I want you to be upfront with me. I do. I would rather answer your questions right now than have you wondering or, feeling bad about a situation or something. I just would rather.
When the bus is leaving the child at the house, up to what grade?
What do we say? Up to what grade is it not okay to leave a child when there's no evidence that there's someone there?
Typically, always definitely kindergarten. I believe we do first grade too. I know some of the drivers.
Kindergarten and first grade on the buses.
Some type of visibility to make sure someone's there. Now, obviously, sometimes when there's siblings that are older, that's a different situation. But definitely kindergarten, if I'm pre-camp, that's a different situation.
Yeah.
Parents are made aware of this, you know that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And if you ever have the issue, and I apologize, I had another meeting. That's somebody who don't know me, I'm Matt Button, I'm the superintendent. Parents are well aware, and if you have the incident occur, please contact Mrs. Decker, and she'll get out to that family immediately. And if they become a regular problem, we'll actually make them come in and meet with us and explain the importance of that and the safety of your child. Because hopefully it doesn't happen, but I don't know.
Kindergarten and first grade,
it's
for
happened
sure.
more than once.
Okay.
So yeah, please communicate with us. We'll definitely help you rectify that issue the best that we can for us.
Also with vans, I want to say that I just had a conversation with somebody about the fact that they go to a house, the child's not ready, they're sitting there for 10 or 15 minutes waiting on the child. Absolutely not. We are not doing that. You do not have to do that. I said, you go to the house, if the parent comes out and says, one more minute, you wait a maximum of 5 and you're gone. That is not your responsibility to sit there and hang out and wait for a child to come out the door. Same with buses, I would say, but certainly with vans. See, the parents think that you have nothing else to do. You have no one else to pick up. You have nowhere else to go. Okay? And so the van is like their personal chauffeur, right? And so we don't want that to be the case. We want there to be a routine that you establish. There's a parent I'm going to call today as a result of this conversation. And I'm going to say, we are not waiting 15 minutes for your child. When you are told what time the van will be there, the van's going to show up, and they're going to wait a maximum of 5 minutes, and then they're driving out of the driveway. They're leaving. If your child is not on the van, that responsibility is going to be on you. Because you have a responsibility of getting the kids you have to get, of getting them to school on time. I'm not okay with saying we're not getting to school on time because we waited 15 minutes at Susie's house. You know, I'm not okay with that. And we will defend you. We have your back on that. Do not think that you have to, and do not think that you have to reroute because that child can't get out of bed at 7 o'clock, so you're going to reroute, so you go back to get them at 7:20. Because maybe they'll be out of bed then. No way. No. I know you guys are good, sweet people, and you want to help these families, and some of the families you're closely connected to. I get it. You know, we have a good, strong community here of people. But we also have a job to do. And part of that job is getting kids safely to and from school and getting them there on time. So we're not waiting around, we're not rerouting to accommodate a child who can't get out of bed. We're not doing that. You know, you call, I don't know, when are you guys calling to tell them? When are they being called to say what they're, have we already sent home? Okay, I would ask that you call before Sunday, please, just because some of the parents, like we have new kindergartners, we have, you know, some of the parents are getting a little panicked, because they panic, they're parents, you know. And I just had a parent of a kindergartner say, I haven't heard from it. I said, no, you won't hear from anybody just yet, but if you could call before Sunday, that would be awesome, for vans especially. Any questions about that, late, early, waiting around? Please don't do that. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a policy as far as like, we pull up and we aren't out there? Like I've waited a minute or two, then I beep my horn, and then I wait a couple minutes, and then I'm gone.
5 minutes total. 5 minutes total. You drive in the driveway, start the ticker.
I have a bus, so I'm like
Oh,
sitting on the road.
on the bus.
I'm
Listen.
sitting there and I'm like, beeping my horn.
Yeah, 2 minutes on a bus, 2 minutes. Listen, if those kids aren't out there, that's on the parents.
If they ain't out there,
That's
they
on
know
the
they're
parents.
supposed to be out there by 10 minutes early.
We have to
They're not. You
put
can't
the
wait for it.
responsibility on the parents. You cannot take all this responsibility on yourselves. You can't do that. Okay, so a couple minutes and you're gone. I was talking about vans mostly when I was talking about that, but
But when you're on the highway, you can't sit there with the lights flag for 2 minutes. You cannot do that. They're
Okay.
not there, you have to go. Right. And you gotta call the school.
Some situations, but
right. Listen, you have to do what you know is best to do.
just
I think
didn't know if
buses
there was
is a little
policy.
different. Van drivers actually go in the driveway, so I think that there's a little give there, but not more than 5 minutes.
Okay, I've had this one case where I waited a long time. This one child, and she was taking
Yeah, well, that's okay, because we,
it was all the time.
yeah, we get it all the time, not just with you. Trust me, we get, oh, well, they never came. Yeah, they did. Okay.
So when I get to the schoolhouse on the days,
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. But don't wait more than 5 minutes.
Or you can always text me, you can always just text me, I stopped at Murphy's, and they didn't show, they didn't
yeah,
come.
that's good.
Yeah,
You can always just shoot me a text, and that way when they call, I can say, look, I just heard from the van driver, and
That's a good idea.
because they will call Mary.
they do.
They'll call Mary
And I always-
first,
and
okay?
I know you guys, you know what you're doing, you were there, and I'm just like, well, you missed it. I don't
Listen,
know.
we know you don't not stop at
Right.
places. We know that, all right? I don't, I mean, unless in the wintertime, there's, you know, hill like this, and I've seen a time or two, but I get it. But I think, we know that you stop where you're supposed to stop. We know you do your jobs. We have your back on that. When parents call, Mary says, no, I'm sorry, look, I know they stopped at your house. So, I just will say, let's put the responsibility back on the parent to have the kids out there on time. We have a big job. You have a lot of kids to transport. You need to get them here on time. We don't need to be messing around with lots of accommodations for parents, okay? If the parent needs to transport the child to school that day, so be it. It's just the way it is. But I'm happy to communicate that to parents. If you have a specific situation you want to share, I'll communicate it out and make it clear, okay? Because it's important. We've got a job to do. We all need to do it. You know, I know we like to be generous and give a little, and I think we are. I think we are giving a little. I think 15 minutes at one spot is, we're not doing that. Okay? Any other questions about that? Okay, the last thing I want to tell you is that YAP, Youth Advocate Program, has donated some books. There's a program that's been started around the state in a few places. It's called Books on Buses. You have no responsibility associated with this, okay? Zero, none, nada. But what I want you to know is that in a couple weeks, on each of your buses and vans, YAP has prepared a bag with books on it, books in it. And so when the children get on the bus, there's going to be, on each van or bus, there's going to be a child who is part of the Leo Club here, or a senior who needs community service hours, because all of our seniors have to have community service hours. A person who is responsible for sitting right in that front bench just when the kids are getting on, and giving a book out if kids want it. They don't have to take books, but they can. And then collecting them when they get off the bus. And if a kid walks off the bus with a book, so what? If a kid throws a book in it, comes apart, so what? I'm serious when I say you have no responsibility associated with these books. Pretend they're not even there. What this program does is it gives an opportunity for kids to have something to do. The kids who like books, not everybody will choose a book, but those who like books will have something to do on the bus to keep them occupied. That helps a lot of kids. Not all, but a lot. So we're going to try this out for this year. We're going to be rotating the books around the vehicles once a month or so that everybody gets a chance to see all the different books. But again, you have no responsibility. The student who's responsible for it needs to make sure that everybody knows to slide their book back in the bag when they get off. But again, if you see a child walk off with a book, you don't have to say anything. Because these are all donated books. YAP is collecting books from various sources, and they'll replace a book if it goes home and never comes back. Why is that bad? That's not bad. That's a good thing. The child takes a book home. That's a good thing. So I want you to know that we're trying this as a measure of giving kids just something else of interest on the bus, and that there will be a student responsible for that, and the kids will just, Danelle is gonna make it part of her, when she does her bus training with the kids, bus expectations and all that she's doing next week. She's gonna make the books part of that training so that the kids understand how that's gonna work. And it's just gonna be a bag sitting there at the front, and the kids can take a book or put a book. It's no big deal. But we're gonna see if it makes a difference for us, for some of our kids, okay? Do you have any questions about that? It's books for all grades, yeah. Mostly younger, because the older kids, first thing they want to do is, mostly, the older kids, if they want to read, already have a book that they're reading. They already have a book going, but there will be books in there that they could read too. Okay? It's mostly for younger kids to keep them occupied. Okay? You can encourage them in it, but you don't have to. You don't have to. You can pretend those books aren't even read. There's no responsibility on your part, okay? Questions about anything now? We really, really want to support you. We appreciate you so much. And we want to support you in any way that we can. Seating charts. Please do it. I promise you it makes a difference, even on the vans. Positive comments. I promise you it makes a difference. I promise. I walked out after you talked, but I love to sing happy birthday. Love that. You know how much kids love that? Even high school kids. They love it. Simple stuff. Okay? All right, have a good year, you guys.
Okay, great. Quick then. Good morning. morning. So my job today is a little bit of first aid training and some basic stuff that we could do in the event of a child on your bus that is, if there's ever been a bus accident or something happens on the bus where the student is bleeding in such a way that there's not time to wait for someone else to arrive to help you. So anyone in the group that has previous experience, maybe as an EMT, first responder, spent some time on ambulance. So some of these things are going to be pretty familiar to you. The reason that we're doing this, we've done this school-wide, all of the employees, cafeteria workers, maintenance. We've even started to use this program with kids, similar to the way that we were all kind of trained in CPR as we came through the school systems over the years. Actually, just yesterday, I got notification Pennsylvania has reenacted. The state actually did something good yesterday. They passed a bill to make sure that all students get a CPR course before they graduate from high school. And they're starting to put an emphasis on some of those practical good things that we all sort of maybe take for granted because we had them when we were in school, and they got pushed to the wayside. So what we're going to do this morning is a short course on emergency bleeding control. The American College of Trauma Surgeons put together this training, and their hope is that it becomes as commonplace as CPR training and fire drills. They look at this as the life-saving measure that you could take in a situation where a student or a person might have an injury that they're bleeding so significantly that there just isn't time to wait for help to arrive. The surgeon that trained me in this program, you know, he said these are the types of injuries where we might only have 4 or 5 minutes worth of blood because we're injured so severely. Why are we doing what kind of things? Any of us I grew up on a dairy farm, and I can certainly think back on quite a few close calls where thankfully nothing really bad happened, but certainly it could have. When we talk to our kids, you guys work in and around bus garages all the time, bus comes down off of a jack or a lift. It doesn't take a whole lot, and it's an accident. Things that we've done 100 times, and it's the one time that it goes wrong that we end up with that significant problem. We talk to the kids that we train in this program. Lots of them ride four-wheelers. They're out in the woods doing stuff. They go hunting. They go fishing. This is the kind of thing where if this happens if you're a mile into the woods on your four-wheeler, you're not going to have time to wait for someone to get there. And so the things that have changed over the years. When I was a Boy Scout, we're going to talk about tourniquets today. Back when I was a Boy Scout, they would tell you if you put a tourniquet on somebody, they have a chance of losing that limb. It's only used as a last resort. It's the last thing you would ever want to do, only if they're in danger. If you wait that long and you're having that much of a debate, we've missed the opportunity potentially to save that person. Lots of research in the last 25 or so years since we've been involved in situations overseas, our military folks, and what they've learned is tourniquet is a lifesaver. When someone has a life or death bleeding situation, so we're talking about severed limb, severe cuts, injuries that might get toward the brachial artery or might get toward the femoral artery down here, kinds of things that can happen in a car or a bus accident or a four-wheeler accident, or we drop something on ourselves, or any other range of ways. And of course, the other thing that we didn't used to talk about all the time, but sadly we do these days, is incidents where we have persons going into public buildings, concert facilities, all those sorts of things, and doing some terrible stuff, shooting them up. One of the things that I think you're going to start to see in the near future is, in addition to the AED units, the heart units that we find in almost every public building, what you're going to start to see installed, I know Geisinger just gave a grant to all the county buildings where they're going to put bleeding control stations. Because what they're finding out is that in these terrible circumstances that happen, the reason why we lose people is because they bleed to death. More often than not, in those traumatic situations, the injury that leads to death is that they bleed out before anybody can get there to help them. In that last 20 or 25 years, what the military figured out was tourniquets save lives. So the military feels so strongly about this that the battle uniforms that our soldiers are using, our frontline men and women that are going into battle these days, the uniforms that they're using have tourniquets built right into the uniform. So here in the crotch, here in the shoulders, they've got a ring they can pull and tighten, and they can put a tourniquet on themselves in the event of a severe injury. What they found was 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, maybe even considerably longer than that, people are not losing their limbs. They get in, they get proper medical care, and that's just not the case. The other thing to keep in mind is when we talk about this type of injury, had they not had a tourniquet, had they not had one of these bleeding control measures applied, they'd be dead. So even if there is a little bit of, certainly a tourniquet has the potential to cause a little bit of nerve damage on the arm. But the alternative isn't good. A little bit of nerve damage in my arm versus I'm going to bleed out. So this is a life-saving measure. We're talking about life and death circumstances. I'm going to show you 3 different things today that we would be able to do in the event that we can identify that level of an injury, and they're things that anybody can do. They're things that we're even teaching kids to be able to do. So the program is called Stop the Bleed. It was created by the American College of Trauma Surgeons. They would like this to become as commonplace as CPR and fire drills, and we're gonna move through this relatively quickly today. It's not complex. That's the beauty of it. The things that we're gonna talk about first: how we're gonna identify it from where you are at, how we're gonna alert 911 and emergency services and get them rolling so that they can help us out, and then how we're going to make an intervention to prevent someone from bleeding out. So the first thing, of course, what we're going to do, if we have the capability of doing it, either call 911 quickly ourselves, use the radio and call one of us so we can get emergency on the way, have a kid call 911 for you if you're taking care of a child. Whatever we've got to do to alert 911 and get them on the way as quick as possible. We know that in our county, it's not uncommon for it to take